My goal is to teach these teachers and administrators and coaches the content knowledge they need in order to teach whole numbers and fractions correctly. The emphasis is on correctly.
When I would teach math, it would be a lot of separate kind of ideas and algorithms and different things. But this week it's kind of taught me the importance of bringing it all together, because he did talk about how by 4th grade the kids can do very well in math, and then in 8th grade it starts to get worse. And then as they get to 12th grade, a lot of the understanding of math is not quite there because their brains become saturated because there are so many separate things they have to memorize.
The public generally does not know that the mathematics, the so-called mathematics in standard textbooks, is extremely flawed, meaning that it's wrong, and when it's wrong, it's very wrong. And so our teachers are taught that kind of mathematics, and it's not their fault, but they're taught incorrectly because our system demands it. And also when they go back to their classroom, they're forced, in a real sense, forced to teach their own students the same incorrect mathematics they themselves have been taught.
Part of what we've come to know as elementary teachers and principals, or whatever the case may be, is that elementary is so important for the future success of children. So if we can develop a common language, like for instance in this workshop, just using something simple, like when we're talking about fractions, instead of saying equal parts, say equal area, will help create a stronger and more secure foundation for the children to hook into and build their learning experiences, instead of going year to year and saying, no, that's not, remainders, that's not the right way, we're going to teach you something new and different. Creating math anxiety, why can't we build and create that common language, really K through 12, so that children will be more successful and happier?
As a high school teacher, I do appreciate having the foresight of what should be happening in the classroom, or what is happening in the classroom, before they actually reach the high school classroom. In algebra and algebra 2 and even geometry, it's really critical, especially as we've been talking about fractions, how the students should have that conceptual knowledge of fractions as it relates to the number line. When they move on to trigonometry and they're graphing their trigonometric functions on the real number line, and when they first learn that in terms of degrees, and then we transition to radians, which are real numbers. Degrees are not real numbers, degrees are not on the real number line. So when we transition them into graphing on the real number line with the radians, it's a one-to-one correspondence. And so if they have that knowledge and understanding of fractions on the real number line, then graphing the trig function is the logical next step. So having that kind of ironed out and fundamentally sound would make for a much easier experience for the students in that upper level math classroom.
I'm going to stress the teaching of fractions using the number line versus models. And then in engage, that comes later. So I'm going to see how we can move those lessons from that module forward, and then shift concrete models further back. Because I think using the number line is a more effective tool. Concrete models, we understand them, but now after watching Dr. Wu, seeing different models are different size holes to begin with, and that doesn't really help. I know we're using concrete models because we feel the kids have seen these objects, but I think using the number line right from the start, the fraction is a point on a number line, and we can easily show that the 0 is in the same position, the 1 hole, 2 holes, whatever holes we're talking about, are in the same position by lining them up with number lines.
Now, the teacher's content knowledge issue, which, as I emphasized, I'm not saying teachers don't know things. I'm saying we have not done our basic duty in giving our teachers the necessary intellectual equipment to carry out their duties. So what I do nowadays everywhere basically is to try to spread the message that we have to do a much better job of preparing teachers. And I deal with, well, in a situation like this particular workshop, I'm dealing with in-service teachers and so they're not in college, they're out of college already, they've been teaching for a while. I try to point out to them in what way the knowledge they have been given is really flawed, and I want them to be aware of it. And of course, the main thing is that I also give them an alternate version that's actually correct, and not only correct, but because it is correct, it becomes easier to teach and easier to learn.
And so taking this opportunity to look back and reflect and saying, whoa, we did this really well, but maybe we can do that a little bit better. That's a natural part of the evolution of what we do. Whether it's medicine, education, engineering, whatever it is. Once you build something, you can realize, whoa, I can build it a little better next time. And so Dr. Wu has insights into this, given his background and his knowledge, and we have wonderful insights into how to translate what he's telling us into the mind of elementary children, dealing with, or helping children on a daily basis, working with a team of professionals.
I think I really liked the idea of the number chart, where starting with 0 and then doing the rows of 10, that made a lot of sense to bring that back to just simple counting, then using that with addition and using that with subtraction. To me, it made a lot more sense, even with place value.
This is a difficult job because think about the teacher. They have 13 years of school education. They go to college. The knowledge we give them there is also incorrect. So after 13 years, another 5 years, they keep getting the wrong information. They go back to teach, and they have been probably immersed in this culture for some of them, maybe 20 years. And now we're talking about 30, 40 years. After all that, and try to change their perception of mathematics, or make them realize what has been wrong and maybe they can do better. That is a very difficult situation.
It's great to come together with like-minded individuals that are struggling to find the best ways to teach math to our elementary children. As Dr. Wu mentioned, and as we all feel very strongly, elementary, if we can teach the right models early on, and give the children that strong foundation, then we can perhaps help them, that will help guide them. That strong foundation will help guide them in later years and in life.
Having that and seeing that as a high school teacher truly makes me appreciate what's happening in the elementary classrooms much more deeply than I did before. This has taken that appreciation so far beyond that. Teaching a kid how to count and to understand what counting is, what it does, how to use it, all the different things it means, and taking it beyond that and teaching how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. These are all things that I take for granted because they already know that by the time they've reached me. So being a part of this workshop and learning from Dr. Wu just what the fundamentals of those basic operations are and what the concept of fractions really is and how that all relates back to the number line really kind of illustrates for me what I can expect kids to understand and know by the time they reach me.